In this video, we're going to be connecting three 1800 series Cisco routers using WIC 1DSU T1 V2 serial cards. 6 of them to be exact. I've been trying to figure out how to connect these 3 routers together for about 3 months now. I had to do a lot of learning in order to do that. I had to do a lot of learning. I had to do a lot of study on subnetting. I had to do a lot of studying on what the heck serial cards are in the first place. I've never heard of a WIC card, which means WAN interface card. I've only ever heard of NICs, NICs, network interface cards. I've never heard of WICs, but there's a learning curve when it comes to getting all of this equipment. You have to grow into the concepts that it requires for you to configure the network that you want to configure, right? I'm making this video because I couldn't find this video when I wanted to figure out how to configure everything. I just found bits and pieces of information all over the internet, and I decided to just put them all together. Also including actually reading this thing here. This thing helped a whole lot. This guy has a great way of explaining concepts, particularly subnetting. I love the way that he explained subnetting because it made it possible for me to understand why I'm subnetting in this demonstration here. I think that it's very important to get physical Cisco equipment because you learn so much while fiddling with these routers and switches, right? There's things that you're gonna be learning that you can't learn with Packet Tracer when you use this equipment, and today was a testament to that. I was wrestling with this stuff for about, I don't know, 3-4 hours. There was different mistakes that I was making on the equipment that I wouldn't have made on Packet Tracer, which means that I wouldn't have learned that particular concept or grasped that particular concept. This is something I don't see a lot of people doing or talking about on this side of YouTube or on this side of content creation. I don't see a lot of people labbing. There may be, I don't know, maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 people I can think of off the top of my head that actually lab with physical equipment on a regular basis, but I might just be new to the game and I just don't know a lot of people in this space. Enough of my chatter. Let's just get into this stuff, right? Let's just get into it. So we have our famous whiteboard here. Now, I am a huge proponent of using scratch paper to draw out your network configurations, right? I was gonna use Packet Tracer to draw up the topology because it would have been a lot neater. You wouldn't have to be a victim of my handwriting, and it's a lot clearer, right? But I think that all of us future network engineers should really get comfortable with using scratch paper. Scratch paper being a whiteboard in this case and in this scenario, right? So we're gonna be connecting 3 routers together, right? Router 1, router 2, and router 3. And essentially, we're gonna have 6 interfaces that we need to configure. 6. Whew, it's a lot. So we're gonna have serial 0, 0, 0, serial 0, 1, 0, serial 0, 0, 0, serial 0, 1, 0, serial 0, 0, 0, and serial 0, 1, 0, right? Those correspond to each of our WIC cards, right? And the WIC cards, again, that we're gonna be using, WIC 1DSU T1 V2. We have 6 interfaces that we need to configure our WIC cards. Each of them come with a little T1 port. I'm probably gonna show you the image later on so that you can really see what they look like. But anyway, let's stick to the configuration stuff. We're going to essentially connect all 6 of these up, right? Creating 3 networks. Let's look at our networks. We have network 1, network 2, network 3. So network 1, our subnet ID is going to be 172.16.6.0, right? And we're going to be connecting R1's serial 000 to R2's serial 000. and that's gonna give us our first network, right? Let's do that right now. So we got this, boom, right? And that's going to be, let's use green, 172.16.6.0/30, right? That is gonna be network 1. What's network 2? Our network 2, we're gonna be connecting R1's serial 010 to R3's serial 000, right? So let's do that, or let's draw that, right? And that's going to be, what do you say we're gonna be? Boom. That's gonna be our subnet. That's our second network. Now our third network. It's our third network. 172.16.8.0/30. And we're gonna be connecting R2 serial 010 with R3's serial 010, right? So here we go. Now the next thing we need to know, we need to make note of, we need to choose the clock sides of each network, right? I typically just make R1, wherever this is, I typically make this the clock. Now, I don't really know what the clock is yet. This is where one of my, to make it wherever R1 is, I make it the clock. I don't really know what the clock is yet. These are one of the knowledge gaps that I was talking about. I'll have to look into this later on, but just know that I'll be configuring the clock on the router 1 side wherever there's a configuration scenario going on there, right? And let me see, what did I decide to make? I should have wrote this down. So I decided to make R1 the clock, right? R1 is the clock in that scenario. R1 is the clock in this scenario. And I'm going to make R3 the clock in this scenario. And you'll watch how this plays out in the configuration in a moment, right? So we have 3 networks, right? And it's gonna be 1 point-to-point connection per network, right? So we're using /30 because all we need are 2 hosts. We don't need more than that. So each network is gonna have 2 hosts, right? That's what this is all about, right? I forgot to write in our network there. So with network 3 is this 172.16.8.0/30. And again, this is all going to make sense when you go into the subnetting stuff. This is why subnetting is important. If I didn't know subnetting or have a grasp on subnetting, none of this would have made sense to me. So we have our pretty little drawing right here where we have our 3 routers all connected up via WIC cards, T1 WIC cards. And now we're gonna get into the fun stuff, which is the configuration side. Oh, look, we already have our screen set up. Now, let's see what we're connected up to, right? A fancy console cable, right? Got a fancy console cable set up. We're connected to router 1. So what we're gonna do over here is, and watch closely, because this is gonna be, it's probably gonna go pretty quickly because I've got a handle on this. Boom. We want to rename this router to router 1. Enable host name. Let's call it R1, right? Oops. See, this is where we're learning. The practice makes perfect. Gotta type in config T, right? Configure terminal. Now, once we're in configure terminal, we type in hostname R1. That's the name of our first router now, right? Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start to configure our first interface. Now, let's do that, right? Now we're gonna type in int se 0/0/0. Boom. And we're going to be using the default HDLC protocol across that WAN link, right? So HDLC, I believe it's the default, right? Boom. Now we have to assign an IP address, and this IP address is going to correspond to network 1's subnet, right? So let's do that. I already wrote it down right here. I already know what our first IP address is going to be. Type IP address. You can type the whole thing out, or we can abbreviate it, right? 1.255.255.255.252, right? We're gonna talk about that 252 in another video, right? Now, we're going to be doing the clock side service module configurations right here. Service, don't forget the hyphen. Service module, T1, clock source. Move this over for a second. Clock source internal. Now, I know what that command means. That command means that the clock side is R1. Remember, I'm making R1 whenever I'm configuring a serial on that side. I'm making it R1, making it router 1, right? Simple as that. Or it's just a choice. It doesn't really matter which side you make it, to my knowledge. All you gotta do is make sure that you configure it on one side or the other. Boom. Now, these next commands, I have no idea what they are, right? Service module, T1, frame, ESF. Service module, T1, cell line, B8, ZS. Boom. And our last one, service module, T1, time slots, 1 through 24, speed 64. Boom. Now, do not forget this part. I forgot this part so many times, got frustrated because I thought I was making a bigger mistake than I really was. What do you have to do next? That's right. You have to bring the interface up via no shut or no shutdown, right? Boom. Now you're gonna see it go up. So we have our first interface configured. All right. Let's just type done here. Done, right? We know it's the clock. Boom. So we're gonna go to our next one, which is an R2, and it's going to be this one right here. Let me just get it right here. That's the next interface that we're going to configure, right? Boom. Now, this is the annoying part. This is the annoying part. I'm about to tell you why in a second. Let's do a little talk. Let me talk to you real quick. So this is where you start to grow into your Cisco equipment, right? You have 6 pieces of equipment here, and in order to configure them, you got to console into each one of them. And how we're doing it today is we're using a console cable. Now, that's annoying. And the reason why that's annoying is because each time I'm configuring a specific interface on a specific piece of equipment, I have to remove this console cable like I'm doing right now, moving it from R1 to R2 so that I can configure our next interface. Every time I gotta configure an interface, boom. Gotta move it, gotta keep moving it. Now, how do we solve that problem? Simple, we get an access server, and that access server costs $300 USD, right? And I'm going to buy it because it makes this process so much easier. I thought that it wasn't a big deal that I have to keep pulling the cables out. I thought it wasn't a big deal. Now, I could have made this a lot easier on us if I had just did this. Let me show you. We're gonna come back to R1 anyway, right? We're gonna come back to R1 anyway. What I could have did was just configure these two. I could have configured these two interfaces at one time, but I didn't want to confuse you guys. I want you guys to know, you know, like as much of the intricate details as possible, and I also want you to see sort of like the congruency of setting up the network, or how I'm setting up the network, right? Let's use this, right? We're doing this all at one time, right? I don't want to just start configuring, you know, random, or what it might seem as random interfaces, and then you get confused. You're just like, wait, what are you doing, right? If you can afford it and you're doing what I'm doing, get an access server. And I'm going to get an access server. I'm going to show you guys how I'm using it, how I set it up, and all that stuff. So essentially, the access server just allows you to, I guess, console into each one of these pieces of equipment without having to take the cables out every time you're doing a configuration, right? So we're gonna work on getting that, and I'm gonna show you how I set that up when it's time. Now let's get back. Now we are in, right? Showed you how to do this before. Gotta go into COM3. Boom, we're in router, right? Now let's rename this router, right? We're gonna get into, get into enable mode. Let's not forget our configure terminal, right? You can type the whole thing out if you want to. I'm using abbreviations because it's a lot of typing and stuff. And host name is gonna be R2. This is gonna help me a lot when I need to identify which router I'm on at the moment. So I'm renaming all of these routers to the appropriate names so that we can keep track. Now, which one are we working on now? We're working on serial 000 on router 2, right? Here we go. Int stands for interface. It's another abbreviation. Int SE. I believe I could just use S, but 0/0/0, right? Making sure we have the right one. I don't want to lose track. Boom. Making sure we have the right one. Boom. And enter. Right? Now we're into the interface. Now what we're going to be doing is establishing the protocol, HDLC. That's the default protocol anyway. Let's give it an IP address. IP ad, look, we can even abbreviate IP ad, right? 172.168.6.2 and 255.255.255.252. Boom. Now we have the IP address assigned, right? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start doing the service module commands, right? And now this is going to be the line side, right? This is not going to be the clock side. I don't know which side this is called. I don't know what the actual name is called, but this is not the clock side. Just know that. And the command for that is going to look a little different, right? It's going to look like this: service module T1 clock source line. Boom. Let's move on. Service module T1. Everything else is going to look pretty much the same from the other side, the clock side, right? Looks the same. ESF. Frame ESF. Boom. Service module. Which one is this? Line code BA8CS. Boom. Forgot something. Forgot. See, this is where, again, this is where we, you know, the iterations where we learn, right? I always have a tendency to either leave out this, the hyphen, or T1 for some reason. Line code B8CS. Boom. Right now, what's the last one? Service module terminal. Why I type that? T1. I don't know why I type terminal. Time slots 1 through 24. Speed 64. Boom. Now, what do we have to do? That's right. No shut or no shutdown to bring the interface up, to turn the interface on. That's essentially what we're doing. Every time we type no shut, it turns the interface on. When we type shutdown, it turns the interface off. but you already knew this, right? So now, boom, it's up. Now, in a few seconds, we're gonna see if it's connected. And how we know that it's connected is, first of all, I like to check these little green lights on the front. Yup, it's connected. But in order for me to prove to you that these two routers are connected now, we're going to do ping 172.16.6.1. Let's see, success. We're connected. We connected successfully router 1 and router 2. Now we're gonna do that. We gotta configure 4 more interfaces. Now I could stop here, or I could just keep going, and I'm just going to keep going, right? But it's essentially the same thing. If you don't want to watch the rest of this video, it's essentially the same thing across everywhere else. But remember now, let me show you. Unfortunately, since we don't have our access module, let's come out of here real quick. Since we don't have our access server, if you will, let's close out of this. Let me show you what we got to do next. All right, we got to close out of that. Well, at least that's what I like to do. And what we're going to do, we need to look at where we need to set up next. We're going to be setting up network 2, right? So now, in order to set up network 2, guess what we're going to have to do? Take this out once again, right? And we're going to go back into router 1. I'm being mad dramatic, but having the access server will probably make this 100% more easier. We can just stay in the console and just, you know, move from equipment to equipment. Now, let's get back to it. Now, all right, we go back into this. All right, and look at where we're at. We're back in router 1, right? Enable, configure T, boom. Now we're going to be setting up serial 0, 1, 0, right? Make sure we have the right one. Don't be making any mistakes. This video is already long as is. Now we're in 0, 1, 0. Now let's give it this, and let's give it an IP address. IP address 172.16. Now, this is a different subnet, right? So the subnet we're going to be using is 7.1, right? And we have a /30. See, I skipped subnetting. So this is, just know that this translates to /30, and we're gonna work that out in our next video, right? As I said before. So now we gave it the IP address, and what we're going to be doing is setting up the service module stuff. The clock side is going to be again on router 1 in this specific interface. When you're setting up the clock side, it's not necessarily the router that is getting the clock side, it is the particular serial, right? So this serial is getting the clock, right? I forgot what it was. I read what the clock side was, but I didn't really get into it. I don't want to make a mistake and mislead anybody, but I believe it sort of sets the pace for the way that the data travels across the WAN link. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure a lot of people are willing to correct me. So service module T1, clock source, internal. Anyway, let's just keep going. Service module T1, frame, ESF, right? Make sure that's right. Yep, frame ESF. Now the next one, all right. and our time slots 1 through 24, speed 64. I need no glare glasses because I'm blind. I cannot see. I don't want to zoom up too close into this. So now, like, once again, we have to bring this interface up. So we do no shut. We could also do this command here. Let's look at this command here. I believe it's do show IpvDre. Am I forgetting some? Oh, do show, I think it's interface IpvDre, or is it do show IpvDre? Yeah, there we go. So now you see after what, 3 tries? See, again, this is the beauty about practicing the concepts that come out of this thing. That's the beauty. You know, you just keep trying until you get it. Now we see these interfaces, right? What do we see? These interfaces. They're configured. 2 different subnets, manual up. Didn't set it up yet. But yeah, we see that they're up, right? Well, this is not gonna be, this is not gonna be up until it's connected to the other router, to the other interface, right? So we see that they've been configured, right? Now, what we have to do is we have to configure this one right here, right? And guess what we gotta do? We gotta take the console cable out and we gotta go into router 3. Again, an access server would make this a lot quicker. And I imagine that at some point this will kill the wire, because if you keep taking it in and out, it's probably gonna weaken and then destroy it. Which means that you have to buy more console cables, which means that you could probably just get an access server instead, so you don't have to go through all this trouble. But yeah, let's put this into router 3. So now we're in router 3. This is the first time we're in router 3, so we're going to name it router 3, right? Configure terminal. Oops. Okay, now another lesson. When you don't have permission, that's what you're gonna get when you try to enter something that requires permission. It's similar to sudo in Linux, and I think this is a Linux-based terminal anyway, right? So you need enable. Now you can type in configure T. Now you can set your host name. Host name, router 3. Voila. Now, what we got to do next? See, this would have been a great live stream if I had more more participants. You guys could tell me the commands one by one. But what we're gonna do now is we're still in network 2 and we're doing router 3, right? So we're gonna do int se 0/0/0, right? And boom. I think I could just copy and paste all this stuff, but I'm not even gonna mess with that because I'm not too versed on that. Now we're gonna set an IP address once again. IP add 172.168.7.255.255.255.252. Boom. Let's try to go a little bit faster here. Boom. Now, oops. What did I forget? Forgot that. Right? I don't think it really matters the order you do it in, but yeah, I like to type in HDLC. I like to set up that protocol as soon as I get into the interface, right? Let's see if it makes a difference. Hopefully it doesn't make a difference. Because if it does, that'd be be sad. Clock source line, right? Similar to, we've seen this before. T1 frame ESF. Boom. We're flying now. I think I could have definitely copied and pasted this. B8ZS. Boom. T1. And we got our time slots. We need to set up time slots. 24. 64. Boom. Now, no shut. And then we're gonna do ping. We're gonna wait for it to be up, and then we're gonna do ping. We're gonna ping across the link to see if we're connected to router 1, right? So let's do, I don't know what that is. Do ping 172.16.7.1. Success, right? So now, what do we have? Let's look at the diagram. Maybe I should draw a different diagram. Let's do something different, right? So we already mucked that up a little bit. Our router 1 and router 2 and router 3. What do we have so far? So far, we've connected. Why is it disappearing? Oh, we've connected router 1 to router 2. Router 1 to router 2, right? We set that network up. Then we got router 1 to router 3. Now we need to do router 2 to router 3, right? That's our third and final network, right? So we're gonna do router 1, router 3. I think I did that wrong. Yeah. This is supposed to go up top here, and this connects down here. Let's erase that. But you guys get the point, right? So far we did this and we did that. Now we have to do this. All right, so let's go work on that now. And guess what we're gonna have to do, right? We close out of this. Yep. And now we have to go to, let's go to router 3. Let's start on the clock side first. I like to start on the clock side first. It doesn't really matter. Now, oh, we're already in router 3. So I didn't even have to close that out. All right, so we're already in router 3. So, I mean, since we're here, we're already here, right? Let's get out of this one. Let's get back in. I feel like they just always button in. All right, so now we're gonna set up this interface right here. Hopefully it's not too blocked out. Hopefully you guys can see that. Oh man, I might have been blocking some of the stuff out. All right, router 3. That's what we're gonna be setting up now that we're in here. We're gonna set it up serial 010. All right. Now, let's do it. Int SE010 HDLC. Boom. Give it an IP address. IP address 172.16, and we're in a different network. Different subnet ID, different IP addresses, different IP schemes, right? So we're in the subnet ID of 172.16.8.0. So our first IP address, and you can make them anything you want. I can make it 50 if I want, but I like to keep it simple, right? We're gonna put it as 2. Doesn't really matter. Should have been 1, but it doesn't matter. And subnet mask 252, which is just /30, right? Now, do the service modules. Service module T1, clock source internal, because the clock side is on R3. Nice, moving along great, right? Frame ESF, boom. Service module T1. Let's go with line. Okay. T1, starting to remember these now. Starting to remember to make sure I put the hyphens in the T1s, right? And again, I'm a nerd and I love this stuff, but I don't know, man. Like, the practice makes perfect. Now, we gotta remember to bring up our interface. No shut. Now our interface is up, right? Boom, that one is up. We just got one more to go. One more to go. Let's do it. Nice, in R2 now, right? Now, what do we have to set up? Serial 101. Let's go. And let's check the diagram. See, you always want to come back to your diagram and check and see what's going on. This is where we're at now, right? This is where we're at. The diagram really guides you. So, oh, can't do conf T without enable. Enable. Conf T. Boom. Now, we're going to jump into the interface. 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. And HDLC. Now, let's just make sure. I like to always double check, make sure I'm in the right interface. Right, nice. And we're gonna set the IP address 172.16.8.1 255.255.255.252. Now, set up the clock stuff, right? T1 clock source line. T1 frame ESF service module T1 line. Yeah, this is pretty straightforward from here on out. This is the last one, right? So we're almost there. And no shut, obviously, right? Now, it's gonna come up. Now we're gonna do ping to test the last network connection, right? Do ping 172.16.8.1. Yep, there you go, success. This interrupted me, and the book talks about how to disable that, but I don't really want to disable that since I don't really know what's going on yet when I'm configuring these things. Still trying to keep track of everything that goes on, and I need as much information as possible as I'm configuring this. So yeah, we can see that it's all connected up, right? All connected up. And how I like to tell is on the front of the router. Let me see if I could show you. Let me see. On the front of these routers, right? Let me see if you can. There's gonna be green lights on all three of these modules, right? It's you'll usually see an orange light on one side. You can't really see it, but you usually see an orange light in one slot and a green light in another slot. And when you configure two of them together, when you create that network that we're talking about, that link between the router, you're gonna notice that there's gonna be no orange lights. It's gonna be green lights. It's gonna be green light in the slot that says CD, and that's how you know. That's how you can physically confirm that the WAN link is connected, it's running, it's working, right? But also, without even looking at it, all you need to do, you just come here and you do ping. That's all you do. Right? That's all you need to do. Boom. And I believe we can do, what's this now? Do show IP int. Up, everything up. And this is what we're on router 2. See, now we see that they're up. When they're connected, they're up, right? And the book talks about all this: administratively down, down, administratively up, or whatever the case may be. It's, again, you got to read the book. So that's pretty much it. That was a very long lab. I hope you guys learned as much as I did. It was very interesting, to say the least. I look forward to doing more labs like this, but if you want to see the last lab I did, which is showing you how to connect using your console cable, which is what you really need to know to be able to do this in the first place, click right here, and I'll talk to you guys next time.